pressed his face against the cold metal of the transport ship's window. Outside, the stars looked different than they did from Earth, colder somehow, more distant. Behind him, 50,000 humans sat in silence, their faces hollow with fear and loss. The guards stood at attention near the sealed doors. Their skin was gray and rough like stone, and their eyes held no kindness. They had made their choice clear 3 weeks ago when they arrived at Earth with the Galactic Council's decree. Surrender your planet's resources or face exile. Humanity had refused to become slaves. Now they were paying the price. Approaching Creos 9, a mechanical voice announced through the speakers. Preparation for atmospheric entry in 10 minutes. Moved through the crowd toward, she had been Earth's best biologist before the came. Now she was just another exile. Her hands clutched a small data pad that held everything she knew about survival. I've been reading the reports they gave us. This planet, they chose it specifically to kill us. Turned to face her, his eyes were tired but still sharp. Tell me. Class X death world. Atmospheric storms that can tear metal apart. Predators the size of buildings. Acidic rain zones. Temperature swings from freezing to boiling within hours. She paused, her voice dropping lower. No species has ever survived there longer than 3 weeks. Then we'll be the first, said the words with more confidence than he felt. Wu joined them, his military jacket still bearing the Earth defense insignia even though Earth was now light years away. I've counted our supplies. If we ration carefully, we have food for maybe 2 months. The landing pods have basic shelter capacity, but nothing that can withstand what's describing. Appeared next her medical bag slung over her shoulder. I have medicine for common injuries and diseases, but if this planet has toxins we've never encountered. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The ship began to shake. Through the windows, could see orange and red flames as they entered Creos 9's atmosphere. The guards activated magnetic locks on their boots. One of them looked at the humans and made a sound like laughter. You should have surrendered, the guard said in broken human language. Quick death is mercy. Creos 9 will teach you slowly. The shaking grew violent. Children cried out. Parents held them close. Some people prayed to gods that seemed very far away now, grabbed a support rail and pulled himself to the front of the transport. Listen to me, his voice cut through the noise. 50,000 faces turned toward him. I won't lie to you. The Galactic Council sent us here to die. They think we're weak. They think one hard planet will break the human spirit. Thunder cracked outside. Lightning danced across the sky in colors had never seen before. They don't know us, continued. Humans survived ice ages. We survived plagues and wars. We crossed oceans in wooden boats and built cities in deserts. This is just another challenge, and we will face it together. The ship broke through the storm clouds. For a moment, everyone saw Creos 9 clearly. It was beautiful and terrifying. Forests glowed with blue and purple light. Mountains reached toward the sky like the teeth of giants. Rivers ran in colors that shouldn't exist in nature. And moving through the landscape were creatures that made Earth's dinosaurs look small. The landing pods detached from the main transport. They fell like meteors toward the surface. Inside each pod, 200 humans held on as computers guided them down. Pod hit the ground hard. The impact knocked people from their seats. Metal screamed as the outer hull crumpled. Then silence. Wu was the first to move. He unbuckled and checked the door controls. Outer atmosphere reading shows, oxygen levels acceptable, temperature is stable, no immediate toxins detected. He sounded surprised. Open it, ordered. The door hissed and opened. Air rushed in. It smelled strange, sweet and sharp at the same time like flowers mixed with ozone. Stepped out onto Creos 9 soil. The ground beneath his feet was soft, covered in moss that glowed faintly. The forest around them pulsed with bioluminescent light. Every tree, every plant seemed to generate its own glow. It was like standing inside a living constellation. "It's incredible," whispered, following him out. She knelt and touched the moss. "These readings, the plant life here is like nothing I've ever seen. The cellular structure is—" A roar shattered the moment. It came from the forest, deep and loud enough to shake the air itself. Birds, if they could be called birds, erupted from the trees in a cloud of wings and screaming. The humans near the pod door scrambled back inside. "Everyone out," shouted. "Form a perimeter around the pods. Wu, organize defense groups, set up a medical station. Move." Training took over. The humans who had military experience began organizing others. They formed circles around the 5 pods that had landed in this area. Wu distributed the few weapons they had, basic pulse rifles that they had mocked as primitive. Night fell quickly on Creo's 9. One moment the sky was bright with 2 suns, the next it was dark except for the glowing forest. The bioluminescence became brighter as darkness deepened, creating a world of shifting blue and purple shadows. That's when they heard it again. Not one roar this time, but many, coming from different directions, surrounding them. Stood near, her hands steady despite her fear. "How long do you think we have?" "I don't know," admitted. "But we're not dying tonight. Pass the word, no one sleeps alone. Groups of 10 rotating watch. We survive until sunrise. Then we plan our next move." The first creature emerged from the trees an hour later. It walked on 6 legs, each one thick as a tree trunk. Its body was covered in armored plates that reflected the forest's glow. Dozens of eyes dotted its head, all of them focused on the human camp. Behind it came others, smaller but faster, moving through the shadows like liquid, things that slithered and things that flew. Creo's 9 was showing the humans its teeth. Wu aimed his rifle. "Orders." Watched the creatures circle them. They moved with purpose, with intelligence. This wasn't a random attack. This was something else, something he didn't understand yet. "Hold fire unless they attack first," said quietly. "I want to see what they do." The creatures circled all night, sometimes coming close enough to touch the perimeter lights, then backing away, testing, learning. The humans stayed awake, weapons ready, hearts pounding. When the twin suns rose over Creo's 9, the creatures melted back into the forest, all except one. The largest of them, the 6-legged giant, stood at the tree line. It watched the humans with its many eyes. Then it turned and walked away. Stood beside her, data pad covered in notes. That wasn't normal predator behavior. They weren't hunting us. They were observing us. Nodded slowly. "This planet isn't what we expected. They wanted to send us to our graves, but I think Creo's 9 has other plans." Around them, 50,000 exiled humans prepared to face their first full day on a world that should have killed them by now. None of them knew that the planet beneath their feet was watching them, waiting, deciding if these strange, new visitors were worthy of what came next. 7 days passed on Creo's 9. 7 days of learning how to breathe on a world that wanted them dead, or so they thought. The casualties came quickly at first. 2 people died from eating plants that looked harmless but contained nerve toxins. 3 more were killed when they wandered into a rain zone where the water burned through flesh. A young man named Bin had barely survived when he fell into a pit filled with creatures that moved like snakes but had teeth like saws. But Bin was different. He had spent years as a survivalist on Earth, living in places others feared. Now he led the scouting teams, learning the patterns of this strange new world. "The predators aren't random," Bin reported to on the 8th morning. His clothes were torn, his face scratched, but his eyes were bright with discovery. "Watch." He pulled up footage from his portable camera. It showed a group of scouts moving east toward what looked like a water source. 3 large creatures emerged from the undergrowth, forcing the scouts to change direction. Then more creatures appeared on their new path, herding them north instead. "They drove us away from the water," Bin explained. But 2 hours later, that entire area was hit by acid rain. If we'd stayed there, we'd all be dead. Leaned forward, studying the footage. You're saying the predators saved you? I'm saying they moved us. Whether that counts as saving, I don't know, but it's happened 4 times now. Been switched to another video. Here, they pushed us toward a cave system. Inside, we found fruit that's actually safe to eat. And here, they blocked us from entering a canyon that collapsed an hour later. Rubbed his eyes. He had slept maybe 10 hours in the last week. It doesn't make sense. Why would a death world's predators protect its prey? Appeared in the doorway of their makeshift command center. She had been a before the exile, someone who studied alien languages and cultures. Now she looked exhausted but excited. Because maybe we're not prey. Maybe we're something else. She spread papers across the table. They were covered in drawings of symbols she had found in the ruins to the south. There was a civilization here once. The ruins are old, thousands of years at least, but the architecture is similar to human design. Doors the right height, stairs the right size, and these symbols. She pointed to a repeating pattern. I think it's a warning, or maybe instructions. Can you read it? Asked. Not yet, but I found this in multiple locations. Traced the symbol with her finger. It shows figures, maybe the original inhabitants, with lines connecting them to the ground, like they were linked to the planet somehow. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. Wu's voice came over the communication system. All personnel to defensive positions. We have incoming. They ran outside. The sky had darkened despite the morning hour. Storm clouds gathered with impossible speed, turning and churning in patterns that looked almost intentional. And walking through the forest toward the camp was something massive. The creature stood 30 feet tall. Its body was covered in thick armor plates that looked like stone and metal combined. Spikes ran along its back, each one glowing with an inner light. Its face had no eyes that they could see, but it moved with clear purpose, heading straight for the camp. Thornback Leviathan breathed. I've seen them on the long-range cameras. They're apex predators here. Nothing hunts them. Do we fire? Wu asked, his rifle ready. Around the perimeter, 50 soldiers aimed their weapons at the approaching giant. Was about to give the order when something happened. A child screamed. Little, only 7 years old, had wandered too close to the perimeter fence. She had tripped and fallen, her knee bleeding from a sharp rock. She sat there crying, too scared to move back. The Thornback Leviathan stopped. Its massive head lowered. For a moment everyone held their breath. This was it. This was how the planet would finally kill them, through their children. But the creature didn't attack. It made a sound. Soft, almost musical, nothing like the roars they had heard before. Then it sat down. Right there on the forest floor, it lowered its enormous body and sat like a patient dog. Moved before anyone could stop her. She walked past the fence line, past the armed soldiers, straight toward the creature and the crying child. Every instinct screamed at to call her back, but he stayed silent. Something important was happening here. Reached and knelt beside her. She cleaned the wound, speaking softly to calm the girl. The Thornback Leviathan watched with its eyeless face, motionless. When finished bandaging his knee and helped her stand, the creature made that musical sound again. Then it stood and walked away, just like that. No threat, no violence. It disappeared back into the glowing forest. What just happened? Wu lowered his rifle slowly. Was frantically typing on her data pad. I need to test something. Give me 6 hours and a team. I think I know what this planet is. She took 12 people into the forest, following paths that Bin's scouts had marked as relatively safe. They carried equipment salvaged from the landing pods, sensors, scanners, and sample collectors. When they returned that evening, his hands were shaking with excitement. The entire planet is connected, she announced to the gathered leaders. Every tree, every plant, every animal, they're all part of one massive bioneural network. The roots underground, they don't just carry nutrients. They carry information, electrical signals. The whole planet is essentially one giant nervous system. Like a brain, asked. Exactly like a brain, or many brains working as one. Krios 9 isn't just a planet, it's alive. It's conscious. Maybe not in a way we can fully understand, but it thinks, it learns, it responds. Sat down heavily. The original inhabitants, the ones from the ruins, you think they lived in harmony with this world mind. I think they were part of it, said quietly. Those symbols I found, they're not just art, they're a message. They're saying the planet chose them, protected them, until something went wrong. Wu looked uncomfortable. What went wrong? War, said simply. I found more ruins today, weapons, blast marks. They fought each other, and I think the planet couldn't stop them. It could protect them from external threats, but not from themselves. They destroyed each other, and the planet has been alone ever since. The implications settled over them like the night. So the planet is testing us, said. The predators, the hazards, it's not trying to kill us. It's trying to see if we're worthy, if we can survive, if we can work together. There's more, added. She held up a crystal she had collected. It glowed with soft blue light. These crystals grow near human settlements. They weren't there a week ago. The planet is adapting, growing things specifically for us. And watch this. She held the crystal near Wu's pulse rifle. The weapon's energy reading spiked. When Wu fired a test shot at a target, the beam was twice as powerful as before. The crystals resonate with human bioelectricity, with our technology. The planet is literally growing tools for us to use. Bin entered the command center looking grim. We have another problem. Surveillance drone spotted 2 kilometers east. It's watching us. Stood up. He felt the weight of 50,000 lives pressing down on him. Decisions made now would echo forever. Let them watch. Let them see humans aren't dying as planned. Continue studying the planet's systems. Work on translating those symbols. We need to know what happened to the previous inhabitants. Wu, integrate those crystals into our weapons and defenses. Bin, keep scouting but avoid confrontation with the wildlife. And you, asked. Looked out at the glowing forest. Somewhere in that darkness he felt the planet watching, waiting. I'm going to figure out how to talk to it. If Krios 9 chose to protect us, we need to understand why, and we need to prove we're worth protecting. That night woke screaming from a nightmare. Rushed to comfort her, but the girl's words made everyone stop. The planet is lonely, whispered, her eyes wide and distant. It's been waiting so long, it wants friends again, it wants us to stay. Knelt beside the little girl. How do you know that? I can hear it, she said simply. In my dreams. It talks in feelings and pictures. It's scared we'll leave like the others, or that we'll hurt each other like they did. Checked vitals. Everything was normal, but the girl's brain patterns showed unusual activity. It's forming a connection with her. The planet chose a child because children are more open, more trusting. Can you tell it something for me? Asked gently. Can you tell it we're grateful, that we want to stay, that we'll try to be better than the ones who came before? Nodded, her eyes closed. For a long moment nothing happened. Then the entire forest brightened. Every bioluminescent plant glowed stronger, and in the distance they heard it. The musical sound from the thornback leviathan, but now it came from everywhere at once. From the ground, from the trees, from the very air around them. The planet was singing. And for the first time since exile, the humans of Earth felt something they hadn't expected to feel again. They felt hope. 3 months changed everything. The settlement that had been desperate clusters of landing pods was now a thriving community. Buildings grew from the ground itself, not built but grown. Had discovered that by mixing human biosignatures with certain soil samples, the planet would generate structures, walls that breathed, roofs that repaired themselves. It was architecture alive. Walked through the agricultural fields with wonder in his eyes. Before Exile, he had been Earth's leading expert in sustainable farming. Now he was learning from a planet that rewrote the rules of agriculture daily. "Look at this," he called to who was making his morning rounds, held up a fruit that hadn't existed yesterday. It was purple and gold, roughly the size of an apple. "The plants are adapting. This one started as something like a tomato, but after testing our blood samples, with permission from the planet modified it. This fruit has exactly the right nutrients for human biology, perfect balance of vitamins, proteins, and minerals." Took a bite. It tasted like nothing he had ever experienced, sweet but not cloying, with flavors that seemed designed specifically for human taste buds. "How is this possible?" "The planet is learning us," explained. "Every day it understands human biology better. The soil adjusts its mineral content based on what crops we plant. The water sources filter themselves to perfect pH levels. Yesterday, I found a plant growing that produces a natural fertilizer that's completely safe for human handling." Nearby, children played in gardens that glowed softly in the afternoon light. Sat among them, but she was different now. Her eyes sometimes looked distant, as if seeing things others couldn't. She had become the bridge between humanity and Creo's Nine, the planet speaker, as called her. Approached the girl gently. "Can I talk to you?" She looked up and smiled. At 7 years old, she carried a responsibility no child should bear, but she never complained. "The planet wants to show you something today. It's been working hard." "Working on what?" "You'll see, it says go to the medical center. It made something for." Found at the medical facility, standing frozen in front of a new plant that had grown through the floor overnight. It was unlike anything they had before, delicate white flowers that pulsed with light in rhythm with a heartbeat. "Touch it," urged. She was there too, her data pad recording everything, carefully. Reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the flower, it released a fine powder that sparkled in the air. Breathed it in reflexively, then gasped. "What is it?" Moved forward, concerned. "My headache. I've had a chronic headache for 3 years, ever since an accident in my lab on Earth. I learned to live with it, barely noticed it anymore." Tears formed in his eyes. "It's gone, completely gone." Checked her scanners. The powder is targeting neural inflammation. It's a precision medication grown specifically for this condition. The planet read her biology and created a cure. Word spread quickly. People with old injuries, chronic conditions, diseases that Earth medicine had only managed rather than cured, they came to the medical center. And each time, the planet grew something new. A vine that produced sap to heal broken bones in days instead of weeks. Flowers that, when dried and brewed as tea, eliminated bacterial infections without side effects. Moss that reduced scar tissue. Creo's Nine wasn't just protecting them, it was healing them. Wu stood in his workshop, staring at his latest creation. He had always been a good engineer, but working with the planet's crystal structures had revealed abilities he never knew he possessed. The crystals didn't just enhance human technology, they merged with it. His weapon looked organic, grown rather than manufactured. It pulsed with energy drawn from the planet itself. When he test-fired it, the beam was powerful enough to cut through solid stone. But the weapon also had a safety feature he hadn't programmed. It wouldn't fire at children. It wouldn't fire at anything the planet recognized as protected. "It's making us better," Wu said during a demonstration. "Our tools, our weapons, our technology, everything we create with the planet's materials is superior to what we had on Earth, and it's all sustainable. Nothing we make damages the environment because the environment is helping us make it." Bin returned from a long-range scouting mission with news. The planet is expanding the safe zones. Areas that were death traps a month ago are now passable. The acidic rain patterns have shifted away from our exploration routes. And the predators, he paused, shaking his head in amazement. They're not predators anymore. They're guardians. He showed footage of his team encountering a pack of the 6-legged creatures. But instead of attacking, they had walked alongside the scouts. When a venomous insect swarm appeared, the creatures formed a barrier, protecting the humans until the danger passed. "They're coordinating with us," Bin continued. "I swear one of them understood when I pointed to a path. It looked where I pointed, then went there to check for danger. They're not just animals following instincts. The planet is guiding them to help us." Finally made a breakthrough with the ancient symbols. She gathered everyone in the community center, a building that had grown from the ground with perfect acoustics and comfortable temperature regardless of outside weather. "I can read it now," she announced. "The original inhabitants called themselves the. They lived here for 10,000 years in perfect harmony with the planet, but then they discovered space travel. They made contact with other species, and they learned about war." She projected images of the symbols onto a wall. The split into two groups. One wanted to share the planet with other species, to spread the gift of Creos Nine's consciousness across the galaxy. The other believed the planet should remain pure, protected. They fought, and the planet couldn't stop them because they were using its own gifts against each other. The final symbol showed a world going dark. They destroyed themselves. The planet survived, but it was alone, traumatized. It shut itself down, becoming the death world we heard about. For thousands of years, it rejected all visitors, killing anything that landed here. "Until us," said quietly. "Until humans," agreed. "I found a message in the ruins. The last wrote it before they died. They said the planet would wait, that someday species worthy of its gift would come, species that wouldn't make the same mistakes." "Spoke up, but how does the planet know we won't fight each other like they did?" "It's testing us," answered. Her voice was dreamy, distant. "Every day, it watches how we share food, how we solve arguments, how we treat the weak and the young. It's learning if humans can be trusted." And asked, "Have we passed its tests?" Smiled. "It says humans are loud and messy and confusing, but humans also laugh. They stopped laughing before the end. They became too serious, too angry, but humans laugh even when scared. Humans help strangers. Humans protect children that aren't their own, it says. It says humans feel like home." That evening, a spy ship approached Creos Nine's orbit. They had been monitoring the colony for months, waiting for the inevitable extinction. Instead, they found 50,000 humans thriving, growing stronger, building a civilization that merged technology with nature in ways the Galactic Council had never imagined. The spy ship's report to the Empire was frantic. Humans weren't just surviving, they were prospering. They had made allies of a death world. They had achieved something no species in recorded history had accomplished. They had befriended a planetary consciousness. In the council chambers, the ruling elite made their decision. "They are a threat," the council leader declared. "A death world under human control could become a military asset. If other oppressed species learn of this, it could inspire rebellion. We must act now while they're still vulnerable." "What do you propose?" another counselor asked. "Sterilization. Complete orbital bombardment. We will turn Creos 9 into a dead rock and eliminate the human problem forever." The order went out. A battle fleet began assembling, 12 warships, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Estimated arrival at Creos 9, 2 weeks. On the planet's surface, woke from sleep screaming, and rushed to her side. "They're coming," sobbed. "Bad ships, ships that want to hurt everyone. The planet is scared. It's asking what to do." Held the trembling child. When are they coming?" 2 weeks, maybe less." Looked up at him with eyes that seemed older than her years. "The planet wants to know if we'll fight, if we'll help protect it like it protected us, or if we'll run away like visitors always do." Thought about Earth, about the home they had lost, about these 3 months of miracles, watching a whole planet bend itself to help humans survive, learning to communicate with a consciousness so vast it made human intelligence look small, seeing his people transform from desperate refugees into something new, something better. He looked at and gave the only answer he could. Tell the planet we're not running. Tell it humans don't abandon friends. If they want to hurt our home, they'll have to go through us first. Closed her eyes. Around them the building's walls pulsed with light. Outside the entire forest brightened. Every plant, every tree, every living thing on Creo's 9 responded at once. And deep underground, in the vast neural network that spanned the planet, something that had slept since the death of the began to wake fully. Creo's 9 had been protecting humans with only a fraction of its power, careful not to scare them. Now the planet remembered how to fight. And it had 50,000 creative, stubborn, adaptable humans to fight alongside. They were going to learn that death worlds earned their names for a reason. They just didn't realize those names could protect as fiercely as they could kill. The battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace like 12 falling stars. Their ships were massive, each one the size of a small city, covered in weapons that could level mountains. Admiral stood on the command deck of the flagship, his gray stone-like skin reflecting the light from Creo's 9 below. "Status report," he demanded. "Scanning the surface," a junior officer replied. "We're detecting human life signs, approximately 50,000 concentrated in 5 major settlement areas. They have minimal defensive capabilities, no orbital platforms, no significant weapons detected." Felt satisfaction wash over him. The Council had worried about this mission, but it would be simple. Humans were weak, always had been. Their refusal to surrender Earth had been stupidity, not strength. "Prepare orbital bombardment. Start with the largest settlement. I want complete sterilization of all life. Leave nothing that could inspire other species to resist Council authority." On Creo's 9's surface, alarms wailed through the settlements. Dong, who had taken command of defensive operations, coordinated the evacuation of civilians to underground shelters that the planet had grown in the past 2 weeks. The shelters went deep, with walls stronger than any metal humans had ever forged. "All civilians secure," Wu reported. He looked at the weapon in his hands, a rifle that was more plant than machine, grown from the planet's crystal structures. "Defensive positions manned, but we have 50 weapons against 12 warships. This is impossible." Stood at the command center, watching displays fed from sensors the planet itself had grown. Beside him, held his hand. Her small fingers were cold with fear, but her voice was steady. "The planet says wait. It's not ready yet. It needs a few more minutes." "We don't have minutes," Dong snapped. "Those ships are charging weapons." "Trust it," said firmly. "We've trusted this world for 3 months. We don't stop now." In orbit, Admiral gave the order, "Fire." Energy beams lanced down from the ships, enough power to vaporize everything in a kilometer radius. The beams hit the settlement and stopped. A shield had materialized around the human buildings, but it wasn't technological. It was organic. The air itself had thickened into a barrier, glowing with the same bioluminescent light as the planet's forests. The energy beams splashed against it like water hitting stone. What stared at his screens? "Analysis, what is that?" "Unknown, Admiral. It's not reading as any technology we've encountered. It's biological in nature. The atmosphere has reorganized itself into a defensive structure." Before could respond, the planet's surface began to change. The forests started moving. Trees that had stood still for eons pulled their roots from the ground and began walking. They moved toward the settlements, forming living walls around human positions. But these weren't normal trees anymore. The planet had reshaped them, given them purpose. Their trunks were thick as starship hulls. Their branches bristled with crystalline growths that hummed with energy. "Sir, energy readings from the surface are spiking." The junior officer's voice cracked with panic. "Multiple launch signatures." The walking trees, would later call them Titan flora, released their payload. Crystalline seeds shot into the sky at impossible speeds. Each seed was the size of a human fist, but they carried kinetic energy that physics. They screamed through the atmosphere, trailing light. The first volley hit a cruiser. The seeds punched through the hull like bullets through paper. Explosions rippled across the ship's surface as critical systems failed. Shields ordered, raise shields. But the shields were designed to stop energy weapons and solid projectiles. The seeds were neither. They were alive. When they pierced the hull, they began growing. Roots spread through the ship systems, choking engines, wrapping around weapons, flooding compartments with plant matter. A second ship tried to retreat. It activated its hyperdrive and nothing happened. The ship was caught, held in place by something invisible. "The gravity around us is fluctuating," the science officer reported. "The planet is generating localized gravitational fields. It's holding us here." Realized with horror that they were trapped. A planet was holding 12 warships in place like insects in amber. On the surface, watched her displays with scientific awe. It's using electromagnetic fields to control atmospheric particles, creating storms that disrupt their sensors and communication. And look, the planet is literally reshaping its continental plates. Mountain ranges are rising under their flight paths. As she spoke, a fighter squadron tried to enter the atmosphere. They met a wall of electrical storms so violent that their ship systems failed instantly. The fighters tumbled from the sky, but they didn't crash. The planet caught them with targeted wind currents, landing them roughly but intact in human-controlled areas. "Take prisoners," ordered. "Don't harm them unless they attack first." Wu led a team to the crashed fighters. The pilots emerged, expecting execution. Instead, they found humans offering medical aid, treated their injuries while Dong's soldiers kept watch with those strange organic weapons. One pilot stared at Wu in confusion. "Why? We came to kill you." "Yes," Wu said simply, "but you failed. Now you're hurt and far from home. What kind of people would we be if we let you suffer?" The pilot had no answer to that. In orbit, the battle turned into a massacre, but not in the way Admiral had expected. The thornback leviathans emerged from the forests, except they weren't walking on the ground anymore. They were flying. The planet had adapted them, given them the ability to manipulate gravity around their bodies. Dozens of the massive creatures rose into the sky like living ships. They crashed into the fleet with devastating force. Their armored bodies shrugged off defensive fire. Their crystalline spikes conducted the planet's energy, turning them into living weapons. One Leviathan wrapped itself around a warship's engine section and simply tore it apart. "This is impossible," watched his fleet crumble. "Planets don't fight, they don't have consciousness. This violates every law of nature." "Maybe your laws were wrong," his science officer whispered, staring at the displays in religious terror. Sat at her communication station, broadcasting everything. She had hacked into the communication network with embarrassing ease. The planet's crystal technology made human computers 10 times more powerful than before. Every moment of the battle was being transmitted across galactic channels. "Let everyone see," had ordered. "Let them see what happens when you try to destroy innocent people. Let them see what a planet can do when it chooses to protect its friends." The broadcast reached the Galactic Council chambers in real time. Council members watched in stunned silence as a death world systematically destroyed one of their most powerful battle fleets. They saw trees walking and creatures flying, and a whole planet working in harmony with humans. "Turn it off," the council leader demanded. But it was too late. The broadcast had gone viral. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching, and many of them were oppressed species under council control, species that had been told resistance was impossible. Now they saw it was not only possible, it was happening. Admiral made a desperate decision. Target the settlements directly, all remaining weapons, fire everything at once. If we can't win, we'll take them with us. 8 surviving ships synchronized their weapons. Every gun, every missile, every bomb they had, all aimed at the human settlements. The firepower would be enough to crack the planet's crust. They fired, and Creo's 9 screamed. Not in pain, in rage. The ground beneath the fleet exploded upward. Pillars of stone and crystal shot into space, moving faster than should be possible. They pierced ships from below, lifting them off their gravitational anchors. The pillars were hollow, and inside them, humans could see organic structures, tubes and chambers like the inside of a living body. The planet was extending itself into orbit. The bombardment struck the settlements, but now the shields were reinforced by the full power of a planetary consciousness that had decided these humans were worth everything. The energy splashed harmlessly against barriers that bent the laws of physics. Collapsed, caught her before she hit the ground. Her nose was bleeding, her eyes rolled back. "Too much," she whispered. "The planet is using so much power, it's hurting itself to protect us." "Tell it to stop," pleaded. "Tell it we're not worth dying for." His eyes focused on him. "It says, humans are worth everything. Humans don't leave friends behind. Neither does Creo's 9. The remaining ships tried to retreat. Their hyperdrive engines charged, but the planet's gravitational fields tightened like a fist. 3 ships crumpled under the pressure. Their hulls imploded in seconds. 5 ships remained. Admiral stared at displays showing his fleet's destruction. 2/3 casualties, against a planet and 50,000 humans with basic weapons. The Council would demand answers. Answers he didn't have. "Open a channel," he said quietly, "to the human leader." His face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. Behind him could see the glowing forests and the strange organic buildings. And he saw something else. Prisoners being treated with care, being offered food and medicine. "I am Admiral. I surrender, please. Let my remaining ships leave. We have wounded aboard. We have young soldiers who didn't choose this mission." Looked at, she nodded. "The planet says they can go, but only if they tell everyone what happened here. Tell them that Creo's 9 is under human protection now. Tell them that any species seeking refuge from Council oppression can come here. We will welcome them." "You're making an enemy of the entire Galactic Council," warned. "No," corrected. "You made an enemy of us when you exiled us here to die, but we survived. We found something you've never had, a world that chose us. A home that fights for us as fiercely as we fight for it. Go back and tell your council that, and tell them we're not afraid anymore." The ships limped away. Behind them they left a planet transformed. Creo's 9 had revealed its true power, and the galaxy had watched. That night, as the planet slowly retracted its orbital extensions and calmed its defensive storms, humans gathered in the central square. They looked up at stars that seemed closer now, less cold. "We won," Dong said, disbelief in his voice. "No," corrected Holding, who was slowly recovering. "We survived, together, the planet and us. That's not victory, that's partnership." And in the vast consciousness that was Creo's 9, the planet felt something it hadn't experienced since the destroyed themselves. It felt hope. 6 months after the battle, Creo's 9 had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Not a military fortress, not an empire's jewel, but a sanctuary. The first refugees arrived in crude transport ships, fleeing oppression across the galaxy. They were a species of small, furry beings whose home world had been strip-mined by the Council. 40,000 of them, terrified and desperate, approached Creo's 9 expecting rejection or exploitation. Instead, they found waiting at the landing zone with food and shelter. "We were exiled here because we refused to surrender," explained through a translator. "We understand running from tyranny. You're welcome here. But you need to understand, this planet is alive. It will test you, and if you prove worthy, it will protect you as it protects us." The elder looked skeptical. A planet that protects, that is myth, children's stories. So were humans who could tame a death world, smiled. You're standing in a myth, might as well believe in one more. Within a week, the planet accepted the trees grew fruit optimized for their biology. Shelters formed that suited their smaller size. The wept when they realized they had found not just refuge, but home. More came. The tall crystalline beings fleeing religious persecution, the water-based whose ocean world was being poisoned, the Vex, engineers who had been enslaved for their technical skills. Each species arrived broken and afraid. Each one found healing on Creos 9. Stood in what had become the diplomatic center, a building the planet had grown specifically for meetings, with adjustable architecture that could accommodate any body type. He had been a mid-level human bureaucrat on Earth. Now he was negotiating with representatives from 30 star systems. The Creos Accord is simple, explained to the gathered delegates. We offer sanctuary to any species fleeing oppression. In return, those species must commit to 3 principles. First, no violence between residents. Second, work together for the common good. Third, respect the planet that shelters you. The planet tests everyone. Pass the test, and Creos 9 becomes your home. What happens to those who fail? A delegate asked nervously. The planet removes them, said honestly. Not violently. It simply refuses to protect them, makes their area inhospitable until they choose to leave. Creos 9 has no patience for those who would harm others or destroy its gifts. A delegate raised a crystalline hand. The Galactic Council will never allow this. You're creating an alliance of their enemies. We're creating a family, corrected. And yes, the Council sees us as a threat, which is why we need to organize, to protect ourselves and each other. In another part of the settlement, worked with, was 19 and she had developed the ability to commune directly with the planet, but where herd feelings and emotions could translate them into precise information. The network is growing, reported 2 and Creos 9 is sending out signals to other planets, and some of them are responding. Looked up sharply from her research, other planets like Creos 9. Yes, the planet calls them the sleeping gardens, worlds that developed consciousness long ago but went dormant after their civilizations fell. There are at least 40 of them scattered across the galaxy. Creos 9 is waking them up. Cross-referenced her historical data. The old myths. Dozens of cultures across the galaxy have legends about living worlds. What if they weren't myths? What if they were memories? If 40 worlds like Creos 9 wake up and unite, couldn't finish the thought. The implications were staggering. It means the balance of power in the galaxy shifts completely, said quietly. No fleet could stand against an alliance of world minds. The Council's military superiority becomes meaningless. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic had replaced arrogance. The Council leader watched reports flood in. The Empire was fracturing as client species rebelled, inspired by humanity's example. Trade routes were disrupted as workers refused to labor under oppressive conditions. And now, intelligence suggested that other death worlds were becoming active. We must destroy Creos 9, a council member insisted. Send everything we have, every ship, every weapon. Wipe them out before this infection spreads further. And if we fail, another asked. The battle footage showed a planet that could hold and destroy a battle fleet. What happens if we send our entire military and lose? We'd have no power left, no leverage. The council would collapse. The debate raged for hours. Finally, a decision was made. Not war, not yet. First, they would try negotiation. Offer the humans and their refugee allies a deal, surrender Creos 9 peacefully, and the council would grant them a normal planet. Resist and face total annihilation. An official council delegation arrived at Creos 9. They came in peace, they said. They came to talk. Met them in the diplomatic center, surrounded by representatives from 20 different species. Sat beside him. acted as translator, and stood near the door, her connection to the planet ensuring everyone spoke truth. The council diplomat was a tall being covered in scales that shimmered like oil. He had centuries of experience in negotiation. He smiled with too many teeth. "You have created something impressive here," began. "The Council acknowledges that humanity and its allies have demonstrated remarkable resilience. We wish to offer you an opportunity." "Speak plainly," said. "What do you want?" "Creos 9 is too dangerous in untrained hands. A planet mine could devastate star systems if misused. We propose a compromise: surrender control of this world to Council supervision. In return, we will grant humanity and your refugee allies a garden world, peaceful, safe, already terraformed. You can live there without struggle." As Council subjects interjected, "Under your laws, your control." "Under protection," corrected smoothly. "The galaxy is dangerous. Surely these months have taught you that. Without the Council's structure, chaos reigns." Looked at, she shook her head slightly. The planet was listening and it was not pleased. "You're asking us to abandon our home," said slowly, "to trade freedom for safety, to forget that this planet chose to protect us when you chose to exile us." "The planet is a resource," said. "Resources must be managed for the good of all." "Krios 9 is not a resource." The shout came from who stood up from her seat. "This planet is alive, it thinks, it feels, it chose to help us. It mourned when its previous civilization destroyed itself. It was lonely for thousands of years. And you want to what? Study it, control it, use it as a weapon." Spread his hands. "You anthropomorphize, project human emotions onto natural phenomena. The planet is simply a complex biological network responding to stimuli." "Then why did it cry when told it about Earth?" His voice shook. "Why does it grow flowers on the graves of humans who die? Why does it celebrate when our children are born? I'm a scientist. I know the difference between programming and consciousness. Krios 9 is alive in ways your council refuses to acknowledge." "Regardless," said, his patience wearing thin, "the council's decision stands. Surrender peacefully or—" "Or what?" Wu stepped forward. "You'll attack. You tried that. Your battle fleet barely escaped. And that was before 40 other worlds started waking up, before we had allies from 20 species, before we learned to truly work with the planet instead of just surviving on it." You're making a terrible mistake. The Council has resources you can't imagine, weapons that could crack this planet like an egg." "Maybe," agreed. "But by the time you mobilize them, we'll be ready. And those 40 other worlds, they'll be awake and angry. How many wars can you fight at once? How many fronts can the Council defend when species across the galaxy stop being afraid?" The diplomat's scales shifted colors, a sign of stress in his species. "What do you want?" "Recognition," said firmly. "The Krios Accord becomes a sovereign entity. Our worlds are independent, our people are free. We don't want war with the Council, we just want to be left alone." "Impossible. The Council will never." "Council will do what it must to survive," interrupted. "Right now you're bleeding support, species are rebelling. Your military is stretched thin responding to uprisings. You need peace more than we do. So here's our offer: recognize our sovereignty and we'll help stabilize the galaxy. We'll take in refugees, yes, but we'll also work to peacefully reform the systems that made them refugees in the first place. We can be partners, or we can be the fire that burns your empire down. Your choice." The negotiation took 3 days. In the end, the Council agreed to a provisional recognition of the Krios Accord. Not full acceptance, not yet, but enough that humans and their allies could live without constant threat of annihilation. As the Council delegation left, Dong approached. "Do you think they'll honor the agreement?" "Eventually they'll try to break it," said honestly. "But by then we'll be stronger. More worlds will have awakened. More species will have joined us. The galaxy is changing, Dong. We're just the first wave." That evening, a celebration spread across Krios 9. Humans, Vex, and a dozen other species gathered together. They shared food from their different cultures. They told stories in a babel of languages, and they danced under a sky filled with bioluminescent light. Found standing at the edge of the celebration, looking out at the glowing forest. "The planet is happy," she said, taking his hand. "It says this is what it always wanted. Different species working together, learning from each other, building something beautiful." "Do you know what happened to the Yet?" asked. "Why they really fell?" Nodded, her young face serious. "They forgot how to be different. They became so connected to the planet that they all thought the same way. No creativity, no arguments, no growth. They were perfectly unified, and that perfection killed them. When one idea infected them all, the idea of war, there was no one left to argue against it." "And us? We're messy," smiled. "Humans and all think differently. We argue, we disagree. Sometimes we make the planet confused, but that's good. The planet says it's learning so much. Every species teaches it something new. Every disagreement we solve peacefully makes it stronger." Joined them, her eyes distant with planetary communion. "I have news. The 40th world just woke up fully, and it's accepted a colony of refugees. The network is complete." Felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. What they had started on Creos 9 was spreading. A new way of living. Not humans dominating nature or nature dominating humans, but true partnership. "What do we call ourselves?" Dong asked, joining the group. "We're not just refugees anymore. We're not really human-centric. We're something new." "The gardeners," suggested, appearing within. "We tend the gardens of consciousness. We help worlds and species flourish together." "I like it," said. "The gardeners of the sleeping gardens. We wake worlds and build families." Wu ran up, breathless with excitement. "You need to see this, all of you, now." They followed him to the communications center, had every screen active, showing incoming messages from across the galaxy. Hundreds of them. Thousands. "They're all the same," explained. "Species asking for help, for sanctuary, for hope. Word has spread about what we built here. Everyone who's oppressed, everyone who's afraid, everyone who's tired of war, they all want to come here, or to the other awakened worlds. We're not just a sanctuary anymore. We're a movement." Looked at the faces around him. Humans who had been exiled to die. Aliens who had been fleeing extermination. A little girl who could speak with planets. They were damaged, imperfect, and absolutely extraordinary. "Then we'd better get to work," he said. "We have a lot of worlds to wake up, a lot of families to build, a lot of gardens to grow." Outside, Creos 9's forests pulsed with light in rhythms that almost sounded like laughter. The planet had been alone for so long. Now it was part of something vast and growing. A network of conscious worlds united with 1,000 species who had learned that survival wasn't about dominating nature or each other. It was about partnership, about finding home in unexpected places, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The Empire had tried to exile humanity to a death world as punishment. Instead, they had planted the seed of their own obsolescence. The galaxy was changing. The sleeping gardens were waking. And at the center of it all were humans who had refused to surrender, a planet that had refused to let them die, and the family they had built together from exile and hope. The stars above Creos 9 seemed brighter that night, less cold, less distant. They seemed like home. And through the vast network of awakening worlds, a message rippled in frequencies only planetary consciousness could hear. It was Creos 9, speaking to its sleeping siblings across the galaxy. "They're here, the ones we've been waiting for, not perfect, not powerful, but stubborn enough to survive and kind enough to share. Wake up, siblings. Wake up and meet the species who were not exiled to us. They were brought home.